For our skills training project, we are doing a 3/4 front salt on a trampoline. Trampoline consists of 4 apparatuses. These include the double mini trampoline, tumbling, synchronised trampolining, and individual trampolining. For our project, we'll be looking at individual trampolining. In individual trampolining, the competitor completes 2 routines consisting of 10 skills. The first routine is called the set routine and has required skills, while the second routine is called a voluntary routine and consists of the athlete's hardest skills. The 3/4 somersault is a prerequisite skill for ages 11 to 12 to 17 plus in trampolining at a state age level.
Okay, so now that Kathryn has introduced you to the 3/4 front salt, I'm going to have a crack at classifying it for you. Its one-dimension classification defines it as a gross motor skill. So we've got one direction, yuck, or gross, and we've got a motorbike rider, so motor. So it's a gross motor skill, and this is because it uses large muscle groups. So when you think about doing your front salt, you do your front salt, you use your whole body, not just your fingers or your toes. So that's why it's a gross motor skill. It's also classified as discrete because it has a definitive start and end point throughout the skill. So you're starting on your feet, you do your 3/4 front salt, and then you finish back on your feet. So that makes it a discrete skill. However, when the 3/4 front salt is used in competition, it is one of 10 skills performed in a row. So this makes it part of a serial skill, because discrete and discrete equals serial. In regards to Gentile's 2-dimension taxonomy, a 3/4 front salt is classified as 3C. This means that it has body transport as shown by like an elevator. It has no object manipulation, but it does have regulatory conditions, so like the size of the trampoline and the elasticity of the trampoline. However, there is no intertrial variability as the sizes don't change in competition or anything. Now we're going to move on to the analysis of the skill. So we've just picked out 3 key aspects of the skill. These aspects need to be performed correctly though, so that we can progress the skill and then start to perform additional skills before and after it, like how we were talking about in that competition setting. So if we get these right, we will succeed. These key aspects include our arms. So we need our arms to be held up vertical alongside our ears at the start of the skill. They're held there for the entirety of the rotation and are lowered during the progression phase from moving from a backdrop to the next preceding skill, which for most beginners will just be to their feet. The position of the arms and shoulders at the start of the skill determines if the skill will move forward or backwards. Ideally, an athlete doesn't want to travel forward or backwards during a skill, and therefore by holding up your arms, theoretically the athlete should travel up and down in the same spot. The next aspect is the backdrop position. The backdrop is very important as it's the base jump which leads into the next skill. For a technically correct backdrop, our chin needs to be held tucked right into our chest so that the head doesn't rebound along the bed of the trampoline. Our arms need to be by our ears again, so the same as last one, and hopefully our legs should be roughly 50 to 70 degree angle off the bed so that they can project the athlete, giving them momentum and height for the next skill. The last key aspect that we're going to look at is our landing. Okay, so it's absolutely imperative for us to land with both of our feet on the trampoline, because if you don't, it's likely that you'll end up injured. Okay, so these 3 aspects focus on is what we decided to focus on for our training program, which Nathan will go through now.
5-week program. Our program consists of 30-minute sessions 3 times a week for 5 weeks, involving training on and training off the trampoline. Each week, a goal is set for the trampolining component of the training. While the goal for the off-trampoline training is consistent throughout the 5 weeks, which is increasing muscular strength and flexibility, the on-trampoline component varies from week to week. Week 1. Week 1's goals was to perfect the backdrop technique. With a program of 15 minutes off and 15 minutes on the trampoline, the feedback for this session was concurrent. meaning that our verbal cues were yelled out while the participant completes the task. Using verbal cues like hold your legs up and put your chin to your chest will remind the participant of the important components of the skill. Week 2. The goal of Week 2 was to focus on performing the skill with the crash mat, the skill being the 3/4 front salt. With 15 minutes on the trampoline and 15 minutes off the trampoline, the feedback for this session was given after the skill was performed. The feedback given consisted of the result and the performance of the skill, and the participant was questioned on whether the skill performed felt better or worse than previous attempts. The verbal cues used were focused on arms being up by the participant's ears. Also, to get that overall movement correct, the participant was asked to visualise themselves travelling around an invisible pole in front of them, or simply that they needed to travel over a brick wall that was chest height in front of them before rotating. Week 3. Week 3's goal was also focused on the overall skill, however this time without a crash mat. The same feedback and verbal cues were used, however, were limited in comparison to the previous week. Week 4. Week 4's goal was to focus on adding a novel task in front of the skill. The time off the tramp was moved to 10 minutes, while the time on the tramp was changed to 20 minutes. The skill now involved a straddle jump beginning, performed with the 3/4 front salt proceeding straight after. The verbal cues were focused on the transition from the straddle jump to the 3/4 front salt, along with the preparation for the 3/4 front salt. So for example, arms up, slow down, wait, don't rush, and stand straight was the verbal cues. Week 5. The goal for Week 5 was to focus on the addition of a novel activity after the 3/4 front salt. So for this we had the participant complete a half turn to their feet after landing on their back from the 3/4 front salt.
Now we're going to look at the stages of learning and the expected outcome. Stages of learning are dependent on the individual. However, we suspect that the athlete should reach stage 2 of learning at the completion of the program. We also hope that our participant will have nearly perfected the movement pattern and understand the key aspects of the skill and why they're necessary. We also expect them to be able to adjust the skill if need be within a routine with little to no feedback. There are 2 ways in which you can measure performance. Quantitative, by providing a numerical value in relation to the test, and qualitative, by measuring the quality of the movement as judged by the coach. The quantitative test we chose for our participant is the number of backdrops the participant can do in a row. Our qualitative test was a score out of 10, judged by the coach in relation to how well they performed the movement overall. These tests will be used for our retention test and our transfer test. A retention test is used to assess whether the participant has actually retained the information supplied by the coach. The retention tests will take place on the first session of the program and 48 hours after the final session. The tests used are those which were discussed previously. So for qualitative, we had the score out of 10 by the judge, and quantitative. A transfer test is a way of assessing the adaptability aspect of performance changes related to learning. A transfer test will involve the skill, however a novel task will be involved in the sequence after or before the skill. The transfer test that will be completed will be a backdrop into the 3/4 front salt into a half turn. So that's our video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Got some references here, and have a good day.